Fred Rea, founder, Rain City Capital, hard money lender here in my house in Woodinville. And we got two pretty crazy flippers. I got Zach Flowers, who I've known for the better part of a decade, fortunately but unfortunately in many ways. And we got Kenny Patton, who is also a power flipper and also a crazy real estate agent that's doing all sorts of transactions. Everybody asked to hear for some flippers. So we are here to talk to people that are flipping houses and doing crazy things. So with that said, Zach, like, do you just spend all your time outside? Is that what you do? Like, is that your thing?
I have been trying to spend as much time as I possibly can outside, especially during the COVID crisis. Just coming home from work and hanging out in the backyard, basically working on my grass, man.
Dude, so let's see the grass. What you got? I've been working on my grass too.
Was nothing but a dirt pile.
Dude.
Just a couple months ago, so.
Pretty impressive.
I know. Who knew you were so handy?
Nobody knew that, including myself. So satisfied with the product. Front looks good too.
Congrats, dude. What's Kenny? Where are you?
I'm at our new office in Bellevue right now. Our company just kind of did a merger with Compass, so we're all Compass agents now.
Look at that. Is it as swanky and as cool as everybody says?
It is pretty cool. It's a lot bigger than our current office, or our old office used to be, but it's pretty nice. I mean, they got us shacked up in, the Braver, a little too fancy for myself, but
oh, that's right.
I
heard about that.
Yeah, dude, you probably have to pay like $1 million just to park there, right?
It can be expensive.
Just gotta walk by like the John Howie and just say, hey, can you validate my parking for me? All right, cool. And go to Sugar Factory or whatever. Anyway. So we're here to talk about flipping. How many projects do you guys have going on right now? Either one, take it away. Go ahead, Kenny.
I'll take it. I'm working on currently 2 active projects and have a third one under contract to purchase. We're just kind of waiting to figure out how to get the guy out of there before we take ownership of it. Nobody's really, or we're not interested at least in taking ownership of places that are occupied right now during the current set of circumstances, if at all possible. So,
amen. I did that with a couple. Well, you, Kenny, how many are you working on?
Currently 2. We just got rid. We just sold one finally last week. That one closed, but we just picked up one a couple of days after that. So we just started that one this week, and then we got one probably wrapping up in the next couple of weeks out in Seattle. So just 2 right now.
And is that, you say just 2, is that like not normal for you? Do you usually have more?
Yeah, I mean, typically we probably have like between 3 and 4, I want to say, or at least, revolving through the pipeline. But as everything has kind of gone on with the coronavirus and things like that, and, people not working, we kind of scaled back a little bit on some of the projects that we're doing. So a little more choosy, but I mean, we like to have at least a few that we're working on.
Nice.
Yep.
Very
Same
cool.
here. We do about 3 to 5 at a time, or at least I personally do that range. And the guys that I work with do a little bit more than that too. So at any given time, we probably have 6 or 7 going down in Tacoma.
So definitely not slacking. Definitely out there cruising around, driving. For Zach, he's driving to Tacoma and back like basically every day.
Yep.
A random tidbit and in fact about Zach is he wakes up at like the ass crack of dawn. He's always up in like 4 a.m. If I ever want to like wake up really early and call somebody, it's him.
I'm hanging out.
He's like, hey Fred, how's it going? He goes to bed at like, I don't know, whatever. 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Such an old man. All right, well, we got some people that are joining in. Again, I'm Fred Rea, Rain City Capital, founder of the company, hard money lender in Northwest. We got Zach Flowers here and Kenny Patton. Zach Flowers, he's been in the business since 2007. You started as a real estate broker in 2007, right?
Something like that. Yeah, it was 7 or 8. I think late 7.
Got it, 2007, 2008. I actually met Zach at the foreclosure auction in like 2012, 2013 when I barely had a couple of nickels to rub together, and we've been hanging out ever since. And Zach's been just slowly crushing it and getting better and better every day. He's the quintessential guy that's like grind, and make some success. And then I got Kenny Patton, He's the quiet hustler. He's the guy that nobody knows about, but that he's also doing all this crazy business. And it was I read your bio. You've been in the top 1% of real estate brokers in Washington for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, something like that.
Dude, how do you do that? That's a shit ton of transactions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, grinding away.
Well, the best kept secret in flipping houses and crushing the real estate is officially out. You're on Zoom, and talking to a few people that we had to force him to come out to. Kenny declined like 6 times. So I appreciate you guys coming out. It's very awesome to be here, for you guys to be here, and good to hang out with y'all. So for you that are here and just joining or just coming in, there is a Q&A box. If you do have questions for these guys, we're going to ask a couple of questions for the next, about 25, 30 minutes. And then we're going to get to your questions afterwards. So when you do actually have a question, go in the Q&A box, put it there, and we'll get to as many as we can. At the end of it, if you feel frisky, this is a happy hour, we'll bring you up so you can actually come up and be face-to-face with these guys if you're feeling willing. And aside from that, in the chat, you can always ask some questions. We have a couple of people, Madeline and Jeff, that are in the background that they can kind of help you out with things. So if you have questions or, something that you want to direct to them, go ahead and do that. And lastly, but most importantly, don't be a dick. Just be a nice person. We haven't had anybody kicked out yet, but it's probably because I tell them not to be a dick. And I'm pretty good at it myself, so I have to calm myself. So one of the things that I really kind of like about this is just getting to know people in general. And one of my buddies, his favorite question for getting to know people is, what was your first job? And what was the best part about it or worst part about it? You go, Kenny.
First job. I think it was 5th grade, maybe. Newspaper.
Fifth grade.
Newspaper route. Yeah. So, that was my first job, and that's kind of what got me into, I guess maybe laid the foundation for where I am at today. I would say, I had one paper route, then it gradually, came into multiple paper routes, and then from there, actually, I was big into sports, so I would travel a little bit, or I wouldn't have enough time. So I would actually end up delegating some of my paper routes to my buddies. So, that just increased where, I don't even remember how many paper routes that I ended up having, but, I just had my buddies delivering the paper for me. And I mean, I guess that's where my I guess, hustler mentality came from.
So was that local here? Were you delivering like the Seattle Times or something?
No, well, I'm originally from Hawaii. So, that's what we did, when I was 5th grade. So I lived in California a few years before that, moved back to Hawaii when I was in 5th grade. And then, just kind of grinded out there for a couple of years.
What island?
Oahu.
Oahu. The North Shore or like in the kind of the busy part?
No, I grew up in Honolulu.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's, God, why did you ever move here? For real. Anyway, dude, that's awesome. So you have no idea how many paper routes you had? Like, how many papers were you like shoving out there?
I honestly can't even remember. It was a lot, though.
Dang.
It was a lot. And that's, when we had to actually put the papers together, like the Sunday papers and things like that. So it was definitely a good starting point, I guess I would say, to kind of get into the workforce.
That's awesome, man. Good work. What about you, Zach? What's your favorite job? Or what was your first job?
I had a brief stint as a paper boy as well, but mine was no success story like that. My first job was at Teo's Mia Roma, which was a very popular Italian restaurant down on Bothell Everett Highway in Kenmore.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, right in front of Kenmore Lanes. It's shut down now, as far as I understand. I'm not sure, but I think they turned it into like a comedy show or dinner club or something like that. I don't go up that way very much anymore, but yeah, I was a dishwasher at 15, and ended up getting basically everyone I knew jobs at the same place as busboys and other dishwashers. And then I moved on to become a pizza cook, and I worked at that place all through high school, basically full time.
That's awesome. Yeah, the place is totally shut down. They turned it into like a music place, and then
Yeah.
it failed there. And
Oh, that failed.
yeah, that was gone. I mean, it was like a year. They probably spent like, whatever, thousands of dollars on this big metal bird they put in a cage. It was
Oh man.
freaking weird. So other question I have for you, which is, this is actually new to my repertoire, is how much weight have you gained or lost since COVID landed? Dude.
You want me
All
to?
right. Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Okay, I couldn't hear if Kenny was talking or not. So I was gaining at a very uncomfortable rate the first probably 3 weeks of the coronavirus. So I looked at my wife and I'm like, man, I got to go on a diet. This is awful. So as it stands today, I'm down about 13 pounds on the entire coronavirus. But that was artificially inflated at the beginning. So let's just say I'm at a comfortable weight right now.
All right, nice work. What about you, Kenny? How much have you gained or lost?
I probably lost about 5 pounds, I want to say. Yeah. I mean, I got a little gym home set up. So, it kind of worked out. It took a little while to get motivated on that. And then, our buddy Ian Morrell actually convinced, well, he didn't really convince me. Well, yeah, he convinced me to get a Peloton. So I ended up buying a Peloton during, the whole lockdown. And that's been a blessing. I love it. So.
Dude, I'm totally working on my COVID-19. I'm up like 12 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
I got on the scale on Monday. I was like, shit, I got a problem. Well, the problem also too is I was 12 or 13% body fat, and now I'm not. So this is Fat Fred right now. I'm taking my fat kid pants off, and I'm going back. So I think everybody really kind of likes to hear about the big wins, like you made tons of money on a deal and whatnot. But I kind of want to hear, before we kind of get into some strategy and what you guys you're doing and how you're doing it and how things have changed and whatnot. But what's like the worst deal you guys have done? And like, just kind of walk us through a little bit of that. I got one that I had with Zach, and it was pretty darn funny, and that might not be the worst deal, but what is the worst deal you guys have done? I mean, I know I got a couple where I'm like, that one and that one, but worst deal, go. You got one, Kenny?
I'm trying to think right now.
All right, Zach,
I'm happy to share. You want me to go?
Go.
All right. So it was the weekend of Super Bowl 49, so 2014. I had driven down to Tacoma and was hearing some excitement about this property that was in the South Tacoma area over near South 50th Street. And so I pulled it up on Google real fast, and the Google map showed me a picture of this house. And I drove down there, and anybody who's ever bought anything from the auction knows that, especially on these last minute properties, just sometimes they come up and you got to get there and figure out what's going on super fast and then make a decision. Like, there's just no time. So I ran over to that place, and I'm on the phone in the middle of the street looking at this house. I'm bidding. There's someone bidding against me, which I feel, kind of comfortable that I was doing the right thing or whatever. Ended up buying this place, and I'm celebrating. Things are good. I go sign the paper, all that jazz. And then I go back to the house later that day, and I'm knocking on the guy's door, and I had someone else with me, and someone's, man, are you sure it's not that house over there? And I was like, what? You brought the wrong house at the foreclosure office. Completely wrong house. The house I thought I bought was this beautiful brick structure, 2 stories, beautiful windows, nice roof. The house I actually bought was completely torn to shit. It was a total drug house, no heat, no electrical, just terrible roof. There was probably a $5,000 dumpster bill to get the stuff out of there. That was Fred's money that I used to buy that. Fred is on an airplane on his way to the Super Bowl. I have to call him and tell him what I did. Man, that was a nightmare. And just that story, by the way, as bad as that possibly turned out, kind of a good lesson in flipping is when you do the right thing, which I did. I just knew it was going to take what it took to put the place back together. You just got to bite the bullet. You own it. and just rebuilt the house and ended up only taking about a $2,000 loss on that, which is pretty spectacular considering the circumstances. It's one of the only 2 times I've ever lost money, by the way.
I'm going to go buy this house. Oh, I bought the wrong freaking house.
It's hard to do.
Oh, my goodness. That's pretty fantastic. I can't say that's the first time that's happened, though. You do enough deals at the foreclosure auction and weird shit happens for sure.
It's really a place of weird things.
That is pretty awesome. Well, that's solid that you definitely eked out just a small loss. God, I remember that one. That was freaking funny.
It was a nightmare.
I remember laughing my ass off. Like, you bought the wrong freaking house. What are you doing?
Yeah, that made one of I didn't sleep for days. Like, I was broke back then. Like, there was really no foreseeable way I was going to get out of that mess. But I'll give you credit for helping me out with that, by the way. That was a big time thing to help me out and not leave me hanging, because you could have probably.
Real and lasting mutual success, baby. What about you, Kenny? What's your worst deal? I bet you're going to be like, I never lost money on a deal, bro.
You bad deal.
I wish. I mean, the one we closed on last week, I mean, we just lost on, but that probably wasn't the worst one. Worst one by far, probably, and it wasn't even a flip necessarily. But we did use your money again, Fred. So thank you there. But it was a duplex in Hilltop. So I bought this duplex on Hilltop, 14th. A year and a half, maybe it could have been 2 years ago. Going into it, was told, got some renters in there. Both units are rented out, solid rents, so on and so forth. But you know how that goes. It's never the truth once you close on it. Closed on it. There was one tenant in there, which was fine in the beginning, paying her rent. So I hired a property management company to try to rent out the other one. That was a nightmare. But come to find out, my tenant was, hung around with some bad people. So in my first, I want to say month or 2 months, there was at least 2 drive-by shootings that we know of due to my tenant. And for some reason, I still stuck it out from there. The property manager finally found somebody to rent out my property. And as they're going through the final walkthrough, a scuffle breaks out outside, and friends of my tenant next door basically knocked some guy out, robbed him, and the tenants that were doing the walkthrough started screaming, crying, scared for their lives. And then from there, it just became a nightmare. City complaints, code violations, everything, you name it. It was just a nightmare. I wasn't able to rent out that thing for, I would say, a solid year. So, it was kind of a nightmare. But the blessing is I ended up selling it just earlier this year. And, we were able to profit off of it and turn that into buying, 6 more doors. So it was one of those things that did suck for a good year and a half. And we kind of righted it out, and we got past all the bad points, and we probably could have held on to it, but it was one of those things that property was just such a headache to even, the address just pissed me off. I just had to let it go.
Oh man. That does not sound like fun. So so there's drive-by shootings, like there was bullet holes in your house?
Correct.
Wow.
Dang.
It was, yeah. And it was the weirdest thing. The tenant, you talked to the tenant, she sounded like the sweetest lady I've ever spoken to. But yeah, just the friends she hung out with, or
Oh my goodness, man! And it was a she too. Man, yeah. That's fantastic.
And I guess where I made the mistake too is I should have did a Google drive-by on it, because that would have showed everything there. Once after we purchased it, we did the Google Maps, or did the street view. In the street view, there's somebody flipping off the camera.
The camera.
There's people sitting on the porch. It looks like people are selling drugs, and so it's just like we could have answered. I should have not bought it based off of that.
Oh man, I have a buddy that bought a place in Chicago, like rough spot in Chicago, and it's the exact same thing. Like in the Google the Google picture had like just there's like 40 people out in front of there and just like parking lot pimping out in front. He ended up buying it. He did it after the fact, and like he's like, I can't. It's impossible. I can't get him out. And, you know, the cops, they've got him out of there twice. Like, I don't even know what to do.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, and the crazy thing on that one is we had to do an eviction prior to me selling. I had somebody that works with me go and do the eviction, you know, with the sheriff and so on and so forth. The sheriff leaves, and I guess the son of the tenant, one of the tenants, starts yelling at my guy, thinking, you know, he was the owner. Throws the eviction paper at my friend, goes up into the unit and fires off a gun.
Wow.
And so I'm like, that was the sign.
Yeah.
Another sign, like, thank goodness we're getting out of this thing.
We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Never ended.
So either a really crazy tenant or just straight buying the wrong house. It's an honest mistake. I just bought the wrong house. No big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we are definitely living in a different world than we were 4 months ago. That's undoubtable, right? But you know, life must go on. You know, shit must happen. We must make money. We must go out there and, you know, do the business. So, you know, what are the things that you guys have, you know, changed over the last 4 months? And you know, that you guys have actually changed in your business. How are you, how are you changing to adapt to these times? And, you know, what are like kind of the biggest couple of changes that you've made?
I'm just being quite a bit more cautious, quite honestly. And throughout my remodel career, I've tended to go a little bit further than most with my remodel stuff. So I've tended to kind of do everything and just put out a really nice product and sell it. And now I'm being a lot more cautious and a lot more observant of what the market's actually doing, and kind of just putting the house back together, not in a sloppy way, but just not going overkill, and just realizing there's still a shortage of real estate out there. And if you own the real estate that you purchase at a discount, you're still in a good spot. So don't take too long with things. Don't drag out the remodels. Don't, you know, try and get too cute with anything. Just try and get your product finished and put it back out. And I've just done less than I usually do, you know. I mean, usually I'm used to running 4 or 5 at a time. And like I said, right now I've got 2 and on a third. And it's like you said, we still got to make money. I mean, this has been my full-time gig. I haven't, you know, I do very, very, very few normal real estate deals. This is all I do is buy and flip. And so I sold a bunch of them within about a month of the situation, which was, I thought I was going to, nobody knew what was going to happen. So got my money out of there, and I was like, man, for a couple months, kind of chill. But things kept moving, and there was just hints that there was no reason to do that. So I just sort of slipped back in with properties that I'm comfortable with, and that's just kind of what I'm doing now. I'm just paying attention and just really sort of conservative, but also still playing the game, you know.
Got it. And living in a place with really loud airplanes that fly over.
Sorry.
What about you, Kenny? How have you changed things?
I think similar to what Zach was saying, try to get out of your projects a lot quicker. Maybe not going too crazy on the remodels. Like similar to like the one we purchased last week. I just did a walkthrough this morning. We could go full blown, 45-day rehab on it, maybe 60-day. Spend 120 grand on it, but we can also put out, get it done in 3 weeks with maybe 50,000 and still be able to get in and out pretty quick and still make a good chunk of change there. So that's really kind of what we're doing, and mainly not pushing the ARVs as much as we used to, not get as aggressive on those, and just really sticking to our guns, and not be convinced we need to buy these houses and we need to fill up our pipeline. Just being more just smart about the buys that we're doing, just not as risky, because it just seems like the market especially retail market. Sometimes I just don't even understand, how people are still buying right now. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It is wild to see. Like every time I look at the MLS and I look at the data, it's like, there's however many houses are put on the market or come back on the market. There's, 1.25 or 1.5 times that depending are sold. It's wild.
So many variables, man. The low interest rates, and then these people who have been probably battling and losing out on offers for however many months up until this point are still really wanting to buy a house. And then you've got, no offense to the real estate community because I'm part of it, but you've got a bunch of agents who are chasing 3% everywhere. And, this represents an opportunity for them to get into something. And probably people who couldn't afford so much before the rate drops can now purchase at a higher clip, So it's just creating this weird micro economy that it feels like this little creepy bubble that might end up popping at some point. But I mean, it just doesn't show any sign of doing that right now. It's really strange.
So you guys, so if I was just kind of put it all in a nutshell, it's like, less on rehab, lower price points, but just staying more conservative, getting through things quicker. Are you trying to get through things quicker just because you just don't know how long the market's going to last? Or I guess what's the methodology behind that?
I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on it, because it's kind of a month by month, like see how the market's going to be. Typically the products that we tend to buy anyway, we buy them in a price point that where we kind of feel in the end, if we had to keep them, we'll keep them. That's always our worst case scenario. But every month is kind of every week has kind of been different. I look at the numbers every day on the, like you say, the pendings and actives, and trying to see what the trend is for that. So just kind of keeping an eye on the market to see, because I think it's super volatile right now. We just don't know.
Yeah, it's really wild. So have you guys been trying to pick up more rentals, or have you been taking the opportunity to kind of sell some of your rentals and then move into something else?
I own 0 rentals.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So
I haven't thought about selling any of them. I'm actually really eagerly sitting back waiting to strike. I watched, like you said, we met in 2012. And, quite frankly, I watched a lot of my peers get quite wealthy from buying stuff back then and just kind of sitting on things. And now they're able to play with money and move things around and have a lot of, flexibility in terms of their own personal leverage with capital. And so I'm not necessarily hoping for a crash of any kind, but I think like a lot of the investor community, I'm also prepared for one. So if it does happen, I'm going to learn from the lessons of the past and, hopefully take advantage this time for my own gain.
Got it. What about you, Kenny? Are you selling some of your stuff? Taking the opportunity to take some chips off the table, or are you actually kind of moving towards acquiring more?
Definitely trying to acquire more. We sold a few. I think I sold 2 this year. But I ended up 1031ing one of them, that duplex, and then we bought 6 more doors off of that. So that worked out. But yeah, we're always looking, trying to look for bigger units. 10 plus units is kind of the ideal, what we want to start shooting for. So yeah, some of the smaller ones, we evaluate them on every turn, evaluate them to see if we want to keep them in our portfolio or, sell it and maybe upgrade into something else, some bigger projects. So we're always looking.
Very cool. So, we talked to a lot of investors that are out there, hustling up deals and trying to make it happen. I'd probably say the number one thing that everybody's saying is it's tough to find a deal. And you guys you guys have deals going on. What are you guys doing to find deals? Are you just networking with wholesalers? Do you have your own marketing? Like, what's the secret sauce, or is there one? I want to know too.
I'm sure we have the same answer to this. The answer is that you have to have your hands in absolutely everything. There's no one way to feed the machine that has to flip that many projects to that all these people are using as their main source of income, you know? So we market off market to direct to sellers just like a wholesaler would, but we don't wholesale properties usually. We buy from wholesalers. We buy from the MLS. We buy from real estate people that I've known or we've known throughout the last decade or so that just know what we do and know we're reliable closers. So they bring us stuff off market, and, you know, we try and just make a situation where they can make more money by bringing us things or whatever we can do. But yeah, I mean, the answer is just looking everywhere.
You just have every rock. And it sounds like you have your own marketing stuff that you do too, it sounds like, right?
Yep. We send out thousands of mail pieces. We're doing some phone call stuff. We have a running drive-by list among the people that I work with, so that we just kind of have a running thing of notes, and then we input it into the notes, and then someone has a procedure after that we kind of reach out to those people via letter or phone call or whatever it takes, you know.
Got it. Very cool. And how long have you been doing that?
The marketing stuff?
Yeah.
So the marketing is, there's 3 or 4 of us that work together, and we've been probably steadily doing the marketing thing for probably 3.5 years now, something like that.
Oh, yeah. Dang, that's a lot.
Yeah,
What's
when the stuff dried up, we had to do it, you know.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
been the most successful? Like, is it, if you're like to put everybody in a bucket, like real estate brokers or your marketing on your own or just referrals? What's like your best source?
And that's hard to say. It really comes and goes. Referrals are obviously always the best. Say that's the primary source. I would say that our marketing with postcards does really, really well, but that's, you know, this is an ever-changing landscape of people wanting to do this. There's whole groups of people there who are, you know, teaching classes about how to do this kind of thing. So your old, outdated postcard gets pretty saturated. That market gets pretty saturated pretty quick. So if you're not continuing to adjust, you know, handwritten letters to individual sellers, things like that, all those things just work. But yeah, postcards we've been pretty successful with.
Very cool. Well, you, Kenny, how are you finding deals right now?
Mine is just networking, really. We're doing a little bit more on the, you know, marketing, direct marketing, phone calls, starting to ramp up on phone calls and, you know, mailers and things like that. But, you know, it's really my biggest success for me has just been referrals, just networking with, whether it's people in our office. I mean, our office is a pretty investor, you know, savvy group of guys. A lot of people invest, flip houses, things like that. So, you know, I get a lot of deals from them as well, but just past clients that just, you know, either see stuff on Facebook, friends, family that know kind of what we do. I mean, a lot of people actually think that's all I do. And it's weird. A lot of times I'll get people that reach out to me asking for certain things, not knowing that I'm even a real estate agent. So, you know, hey, you got an inspector, you know, I'm like, inspector for what? Oh yeah, I'm buying a house. Like, that's kind of weird, you know? So, you know, but when it comes to like fixing up houses, you know, they always reach out to me for those type of stuff. So I mean, you know, that's probably the biggest referral where I've been getting a lot of my deals from.
Very cool. And so you do your own marketing too, like just like phone calls and whatnot to people?
Yeah, I mean, there's myself and, you know, a couple guys in the office. We try to, you know, do some stuff together just to kind of friendly competition type stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's really pretty much it. Door knocking was one that, you know, we used to like to do a lot. You know, we were kind of consistent for a little bit, but, you know, fell off the wagon, and, you know, Corona came, and, you know, that's when we wanted to start doing it again. But yeah, I mean, door knocking is some of the stuff we like to do as well. But yeah. I mean,
now you're coming up to the door in a mask and you're like, hey guys, how's it going? Want to sell your house?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I don't think I'd want to sell.
Yeah. I mean, so we're thinking ways around it. Yeah. Right now.
So what do you, I mean, you guys are in it. You guys are obviously thinking about it. You know, what do you think the opportunities are going to be over the next, you know, 3, 6, 9 months? You know, there's a lot of other states that are growing in COVID cases numbers and, you know, travel, you know, requirements and all this other crazy stuff. What are the opportunities that you guys see coming up and that you're going to be attempting to take advantage of? Nobody all at once.
I mean, that's a hard question to ask, man. I think all of us are sitting back just like, I mean, who's ever seen this before, you know? This is the first time any of us have ever been through something like this, and I have absolutely no idea what I think is coming down the pipe. I think because people are going to be traveling less, hopefully that means they're going to be saving more money. So maybe people who are living in apartments are going to still be trying to buy houses because they want to get out of those little boxes and into something with a little more space. But as far as what I'm hearing from other investor friends, I think there's this theory that once evictions are allowed to come back into play, that there's going to be a lot of those happening, and then maybe there'll be a lot of sellers who have grown unhappy with the things Washington State has, the restrictions they put on landlords and things like that, where they'll want to just kind of just say goodbye to the business of being a mom and pop type landlord. So maybe we get houses for sale in that market. I have no idea though. It's going to be very interesting. That's why I'm just kind of slow playing right now.
Yeah. But plus you got a baby on the way too, so you don't want to put too much on the plate, right?
And I'm old now.
It's true. What about you, Kenny? What do you see coming up?
Yeah, I mean, just like Zach said, it's hard to predict. I mean, it's a month by month we're looking at. But kind of what I feel is, I mean, I don't see how people aren't going to unfortunately lose their houses. Things like the forbearance. What's going to happen once those come, due, or how long will these banks be able to stretch them? And then, when they lift the eviction, I know a lot of landlords, mom and pop landlords are pissed right now, or they can't afford to hold on to these properties. So you're going to see people just start offloading these things, and then, more foreclosures I foresee. I mean, I have been seeing a little bit more short sales. I haven't seen them in a long time.
Yeah.
I tied up a short sale not too long ago. So, you're starting to see a little bit of a trend, but on the flip side, then you're seeing all these pendings and, people still buying. So it's just really hard to say where we're going to be at.
Yeah, we saw a short sale recently and there's a short sale approval in our file. I'm like, huh? Short sale?
I saw one.
Yeah, it's so strange. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how is there a short sale right now? Like everything is equitable. Anyway, whatever. Crazy, crazy times, man. Crazy, crazy times. Gosh, we only have a few more minutes. Right around 4:45, I think we have a couple of people that are gonna want to come up and have some questions for you guys live. Yes, live and in charge. What's like if you're gonna give advice to someone that's just kind of getting into it? What would you tell them? There's a lot of people that are out there that are gonna either watching this live right now or will watch it over the coming weeks. And if you're like Papa Bear sitting on the side saying, "Hey guys, watch out for this." What advice would you give to the new people coming in?
I would say find a mentor. You don't spend money on these seminars. I'll tell you that. Sure, they might have valuable information, but that's one of the biggest scams I've seen in real estate.
Amen.
So, but definitely, there's a lot of people. It's so much easier to network with people and get valuable information. Whether you're on Facebook or Instagram, it's just sending a message to someone. I think, find a mentor is definitely the number one thing to do.
Got it.
Totally agreed. Mentorship is a big deal. There's a lot of free information out there. If you're willing to get out and grind, like a lot of us earned our stripes in a very awful, difficult way, like climbing through windows and kicking through doors through the foreclosure auction and, watching other people make money and playing with other people's money in an effort to kind of learn how to actually do this with some level of competency. And I years before I started trying to buy a house. So there's a lot of information out there. Like Kenny said, there's no reason to go pay somebody, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So is that your advice too, Zach? Like if you're gonna say one thing is go find a mentor, or?
Well, I mean, that's one aspect of it. Funny enough, someone was Facebook messaging me, somebody I didn't know this morning, she's a gal who's interested in buying her first investment type property. And she's like, well, where do I start? And how much is it going to cost to do the plumbing and the electric? And I was like, well, do you have your financing stuff worked out? And she was like, well, what do you mean? It's like, she's like, well, do they pay for the plumbing and electric? Like, no idea what she was talking about. And so it's just kind of a cheesy point since you're the one running the meeting here, but quite frankly, it's important to be with somebody like Rain City who does, because as someone who's taken out construction type loans from you before, knowing that the funds are going to be available when you need the funds and that there's a flow to how funds are going to be dispersed, and then understanding that kind of stuff before you get yourself into one of these things is super important. Like, you need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to know what's going to cost you. You need to know how long you think you're going to be into it. You should probably develop a relationship with contractors, because that is literally the most difficult part of this entire process, just chasing these dudes down. I mean, we have it very good. We run like a three-headed monster where all of these contractors work only for us. So if I'm doing 3 or 4 flips, they come work on my stuff, and then they scurry on over to the other guy's flips, and we keep those guys busy all the time. They don't really work for anybody else. But when you're getting into this business, man, plumbers, electricians, just all these guys that can come onto your job site and just wreak financial havoc on you if you don't know what you're doing. So I'd be interviewing those cats and lenders all day long before I dove in.
Dude, I got stories upon stories.
You all do, bro.
Well, and a lot of the clients too, just a lot of our people, and they get into it and then they don't necessarily know. We always work hard to try to educate, but you're in the heat of the deal, you're just trying to get it closed, and then you figure it out later. Well, Kenny is offering mentorships currently. He'll be taking applications here in a couple minutes, and I'll leave his personal cell phone number so you can call him after this. Oh man!
Sign me up.
What's that?
I said, sign me up.
Oh, I'd take some Kenny mentorship. Has a baller. Okay, we are just a little bit early. I have a couple other questions, but we can go to the live ones. I always like talking to people. So I think the first one that we have, maybe Julio? Julio's his name. We are going to enable him so he can come up and hang out with us. So let's give him a second to pop up and see if he can make it on in. Sometimes there's a little technical difficulties when it comes to this. And Julio, I get you're on the auto remove if you come on here and start going crazy.
There you go.
What's up, man? How's it going?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Going good.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, or in dreams. I wanted to. So I worked out. I did a couple of flips. I like the flips. They're fun. It's kind of where my question is coming from. I've been doing this for 8 months. I quit my job cold turkey. My wife hated it, but I went like a year and a half without making a dime. I had to flip stuff, all that, everything I could flip, from Salvation Army to Goodwill to Craigslist free section, you name it, everything to survive. Anyway, so I came across some friends. They trusted me. They gave me some cash. They should trust me. And they gave me some cash, so I got into my first flip. And finally made $82,000 on my first flip as profit.
Wow.
Woo! I don't know how, but I was a real estate agent for a year, almost a year, and I saw my first commission check. And if my French is correct, I was like, F no, no way. I throw in the towel. I was like, I'm going to keep my license because I might need it. And I did. I kept it. I still have it. But it was the best thing I could possibly do, because I wasn't able to blame anybody for anything. It was like, if I wasn't making money. It's your fault, dude. Like, you're not making money because you don't want to, right? So yeah. So anyway, so
what you got for us? You got a
I
question
know. Let
for
me
us?
just go
Or you
straight
just
to the
wanted
question. I know. So let me go straight to the question. So here's the thing. It was great like that. Now, I really want to get into the auction properties, like pre-foreclosures. I'm a little concerned because I don't know anything about them. But I've been talking to Ryan, and Ryan can help me out, kind of guide me through. But I know he's busy. I'm not the only guy he talks to. But I'd like to see, what do you guys recommend? What to look out for when I get that? If I do go into the auction, like, what is the first thing to cover my ass?
Whew, I'll start. Auction is hard. It's a it's a risky business to be in. I mean, you've been blessed, it sounds like, to have had some success on that flip that you did, which is awesome, man. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Not a lot of people can say their first one went like that. But not a lot of people did their first flip in a market that was constantly doing this. And so when you go into the auction, there are just a plethora of unknowns that can go wrong. And it's good if are you talking about Ryan Powell?
Morel.
Ryan Morel. Okay. Yeah. It's good if you're linked up with one of those guys who knows the auction in and out, who knows what they're doing. And just into their information, but do as much research on the place as you can for yourself, man, too. It's just it's a high risk biz, and all sales are final, as Fred and I found out in 2014.
So liens and stuff like that, right? If I'm not correct, a bunch of liens and trustees, or is that right? Or no? Could come
title.
up?
Title is very
Title
important.
number one.
It's you want to make sure that you're buying what you think you're buying. More important than just buying the wrong house.
It's true.
Actually knowing that you're buying a first lien, which is important because everything else goes away. It depends on which market you're looking into as well. There are some differences if you're looking at Washington or Oregon. What market are you looking at?
I'm pretty much open to both right now until I venture out for cash flow properties, like, what I'm sorry, your name, cash, like the one that has most rentals. Kenny?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the bread and butter for me.
Kenny, what's your advice for Julio here in the auction?
I mean, auction, I'm not hugely familiar with the auction. I don't really mess around with, especially like the foreclosure auction. I mean, I've done it for a little bit. I mean, I haven't really purchased too much, but yeah, like Zach was saying, I mean, it's crazy out there. I mean, not only you got to worry about the property, you got to do as much research as you can. I mean, you got other people that are trying to buy the property that might be trying to sabotage you. I mean, back when we were doing it, I mean, people would, well, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I mean, people had sets of keys to get into some of these vacant houses. Then you show up and the key's broken in the door, or it's just crazy, and people trying to bid you up. So I mean,
they're gonna try to flush me out, right? I heard Washington is pretty tight in Washington.
So I mean, they definitely do as much research as you can. I mean, some of the biggest success I had, I used to buy a lot on just like online auctions. Like, what was it?
Auction.com.
Yeah, but auction.com, I used to buy a lot off of them, and those were pretty good. But I would stay away from occupied ones, because those are the ones that became difficult on those. But yeah, those are pretty risky. You end up sometimes buying some stuff sight unseen. You just go off some of these pictures and pray that you bought a good one. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend that. So
yeah, I don't want to do the backyard thing. There's no weeds, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay.
As I've done over 1,000 auction transactions, and
text me.
There is I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and when you're around long enough, you see some crazy shit. The auction isn't for everybody, that's for sure. And and I would probably say, once you get past some of the technicalities of where you get your money from, who's doing title and whatnot, which even if you do think you have clean title, sometimes you don't. Like, we have one right now where we actually bought a second. The first didn't show up. We actually got a full title commitment. first wasn't there, and then we got a lawsuit in the mail for a judicial foreclosure on the first lien from like 2002 or whatever. I mean, title's going to end up paying for it, but it's 9 months of dealing with the title company. So once you get all that stuff kind of dialed in, be very diligent about what you buy. Like buy in the areas that buy the have a criteria and a calculator of what you're going to go, and don't mess around with it. Because the people that stray, there's a guy that I started financing back in the day, and he made his money off of the B and C properties. There'd be all these guys that are looking at houses in Kirkland and Bellevue or whatever, and they would just bid them sky high. And he'd
What's
be
B
one,
and C?
like the places on Hilltop where there's gunshots in the windows, or stuff like that. Stuff that's like, it's a little
I got you. Yes, I get it.
But you could still make money. That's where he made a ton of money, and he had way less competition. That was his strategy, right? But he just had a strategy, and he went into it. So that if you're working with Ryan, he's a pro. I mean, we have auction checks with all of his runners daily. Be diligent about what you're going to do and have a criteria. Because once you start straying, like I remember I was always bid on land development stuff at the auctions because none of my clients wanted it and I loved it. Holy shit, man. Like 2008 happened and that was not the best. You don't want to be a developer in 2008. That sucked.
Wow.
It's very emotional down there, man. That it's you go there with the idea of how it's going to go, and then it starts going a different way, and you just get sucked in, and next thing you know, you're doing something is stupid just because you feel like you need to do it, and
just because the other guys.
There's people down that create that atmosphere just for you, so it can be a sketchy place.
It's pretty fun, or just don't go.
Also
it's even
fun.
better. Don't go.
Don't go. Yeah.
Make your bids, drive the properties, do your title research. Don't go to the auction.
You also learn a lot there too, though.
Yep, that's for sure.
Okay, so I got to get my feet wet, and I like to dive head in first. It's just it's I don't know. I had another question, but I'll let somebody else ask another question.
You're in good hands, and Ryan will take care of you. I'll make sure of it since you're brave enough to come up here. But thanks for coming up, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And then I think we got another one coming up. Got some liveness.
Wow.
I think it's Jacob Schaefer, maybe. Let's see how long it's going to take him. Usually it doesn't take. There he is.
Hey, how's it going?
Boom! Live from the couch. Jacob in the house. Yeah. What is up?
So you don't have to give away your whole strategy, but I'm kind of curious how you guys, what areas you go for and what your criteria is for expanding outside of your area if a good deal comes along. Also,
I've been working in Tacoma, Pierce County for forever. So I've done deals up in Seattle just because it seemed like good opportunities. Like a state friend, has a brother who's selling a house or something like that. But my theory and philosophy remains and has always been, I stay in this kind of sphere of affordability where I know that the most volume of people are going to be able to afford the house that I'm going to produce. And I've stayed there instead of getting kind of guys and wanting to get up into these higher end type properties. Just done plenty well selling first time buyers houses down in Tacoma.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I go pretty much from Arlington to Olympia.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, if the deal makes sense, the deal makes sense for me. The hardest part is, if you do venture off into different areas, is finding the contractors that are going to be able to go, in Arlington, or Olympia. If you got guys that mainly work in like South King County or whatever it may be. I mean, that's the biggest issue, but mainly a lot of my stuff is South King County, Seattle. It's ventured. When I first started, mainly was Pierce County. Mm-hmm. Everything was Pierce County. And then it just kind of gravitated towards, South King County into Seattle. So, that's just kind of how it worked out.
Nice.
Have a strategy.
Well, cool. I'll let the next person go. Thanks for answering.
Yeah, no worries, man. Take care. Have a good one. But so do you guys have a strategy of when you go out further? Like if you're like, man, that's a deal, but it's in Shelton, do you end up kind of taking it a little bit differently? Or you're like, oh, that's in Shelton. I don't want to do that.
That's my
It does kind of, pop into your head that you don't want, it has to be a really good deal to make, want to go that far out,
Yeah.
especially
You
as you
gotta
get
babysit
older,
these
when we first started, I didn't have kids, so that, that didn't matter, where the property was. Now that I have kids, things like that, I don't want to make, maybe, the drive to Olympia is kind of,
Yeah, it's not like
I
you
don't
want to
wanna
go
do
to
that.
Aberdeen either, right? Like, you got a deal in Aberdeen. Let's go, right? You're super excited.
went out there a couple months ago.
no, not unless I'm fishing
Yeah.
On your way to Ocean Shores, maybe.
somewhere. Yeah,
That's pretty much the only reason why anybody goes to Aberdeen.
exactly. Too hard. The contractor thing is too hard out of area, man.
Yeah, I feel like once you kind of get you get dialed in your situation and you kind of know who you know, it's super helpful just to kind of lean on that and make sure you got it, and not necessarily go straight too far out.
Exactly.
I know I have a few people on the Rain City team. They're always like, dude, we got a cash out refi in Kennewick. It's like, ugh. It was land too.
Oh, jeez.
Land in Kennewick. Cash out. Yeah, that's a little tough. Hey, it might be a good deal. Who knows? It's probably not for us. I don't know what to do with land in Kennewick. What would I do? Go through the foreclosure? Okay, it looks like we have one more person that is willing and able to come on up. I don't actually know who it is, but we got like 3 more minutes, so hopefully we can get them in here and get
Surprise
it done.
guest.
Surprise guest. Dun, dun, dun.
Hopefully it's one of my hecklers.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I would love someone to heckle you. There we go. We got the guy in the shadows.
Yeah.
Or the gal in the shadows. One of the two. There he is. How's it going?
Yeah, we are doing good. There is light.
Yeah, this is live. You're on Facebook and everything. There's like thousands of people watching you. Don't be nervous.
It's JB and Jennifer.
It's JB and Jennifer, but Jennifer didn't like video.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe you can hear her voice. So we are for Belle Maison, LC, and
We just finished our first flip and
Yeah.
sold it on the 26th.
Congrats.
Yeah. And
Nice
we were successful.
Yeah, and we was in like the top one in the platform, and we made
had
like 62K
62K
on the first flip, and
424 a square foot.
yeah, and it's really the first time without any good experience. So
Awesome.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
yeah.
So what can these two fellows do for you?
So we have pretty simple question for you guys, because we want to go. We have a big dream. This is our goal. We want to do flipping to fix the house, then start to build the house, like the new construction, then end up by doing like Airbnb. So we will have really long way to go. Her first question is more about what is the best advice to buy the house for auction at King County. I know that you say you try to explain something with Julius, who just passed before me, like the first guy.
Mm-hmm.
But because it's really hard, maybe you go online and like people buy it, or it's already, the house is already buy before maybe they put it online. I don't know the real process, and it's really tricky. So what is the best advice and best way, or if there is a way to get someone to coach us about buying the house in auction? And the second question is, about Jeff, you say, Fred, you say something about buying a land. You are good in that. So how we can do to buy some land so we can do the new construction around like King County or Seattle, like North Seattle, so we can keep going. And the last one is what is the best way to do like Airbnb after flipping
Which
and
would
new
be land.
construction.
That would be
And
land too.
yeah,
You want to build new construction and use that as an Airbnb?
Right.
yeah, we want to buy the land and we do like the new construction and we sell it first so we can make good profit. Then the last step is to buy another land and to do Airbnb and put it like, on the market. So we can keep like Airbnb, then we keep moving with flipping so we can have some, money available to continue.
I can probably summarize all that for you pretty quick. Number one, really continue to ask yourselves, why do you think that the foreclosure auction is the place that you should be going to get things? That I would really expand about that and not, I think a lot of us who are really seasoned in this, I mean, I used to run a group that took people to the foreclosure auction every single week. And I haven't been to the foreclosure auction in 5 years probably. So what you guys can do, because that's what your goal is probably be looking for a real type project that is on a larger lot that's going to allow you to subdivide the land off. And so if you buy something like that and you remodel the house, and then you sell the house and you subdivide the land, ideally you can get that done so that you own the land for nothing. You just break even on that transaction, and then you own a lot for nothing. And then you build a house, you get a loan against the land and you build a house with that money. Okay. So that's a good strategy that people do. It's a lot easier to say than it is to do, because there's, tons of people looking for stuff like that, but don't let that deter you. It still happens.
Okay. So what to do, for example, if we find a house that is maybe very small one, but there is a big land, it's okay, for example, to buy and split the house by two and sell the small one and build using another land that it's, the rest, and to build a new house. Or like this one can be a little bit complicated with the paperwork and to get the title, or like the, how's it called?
The zoning.
Yeah, the zoning issue. Do you have any suggestion for this challenge?
Find who knows what they're doing. Go to the county, see whoever presides over that land or whatever it is, and find out what's possible there. Like I work in Tacoma, so I can just call the city because they're not doing in-person meetings right now due to COVID-19. So you call them, you leave them a message, 24 hours later or so, they call you back and they'll be willing to talk to you about everything that's possible there. I'm by no means a lot split expert, but there's basically two different things you can do. One's a boundary line adjustment, which is very simple. They basically just draw you a new line, you pay them a few bucks and you got a new lot. And the other one's more like a short plat, which takes surveyors and time and money and is considerably more complicated. So, each situation is unique. You got to figure out which one it is that you're looking at and then find out what you can do with that.
Okay. And if you have a few minutes for me, I have another one. Like we found a land recently, like 2 days ago. The price is good, but the land may have some problem because they say it's like wet like land.
Got wetlands,
so, yeah. So what do you think about such kind of situation? Because it was in the market for a long time, almost 1 year or 8 months, but nobody buy it. And it's in the good location, but we don't know what is a big cost or what is a trouble that we can face if we are trying to buy this land. Or we went to somewhere, someone bought the land maybe cheap, and they have some problem and they abandoned the land and they didn't do anything with. So I don't know if you have some idea about like process for the land that it's trouble, or if it's wet or
You want
what
to take that, Freddie?
situation.
Dude, so you know, my first go around. I mean, we all started in this business. You know, like I started with $0, and I started wholesaling, and then I started flipping, and then I realized I was horrible at flipping, and then
Yeah.
so I started developing land because I hated doing the work, and then I got my ass totally handed to me developing land and all the flips I was doing because 2008. I mean, whatever. You can read my story somewhere else or listen to it. You got one flip under your belt, right?
Yes.
And the two guys that are on here too, they're right here for me.
Yeah.
You know, both of them have done a little bit, you know, around 100. And then, you know, they've kind of been through enough. I'm sure they probably dabbled in a little bit of land development and maybe a little bit of new construction, but they found a niche for themselves that they were very successful in. They do it day in and day out.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Kenny in particular, he's building an empire now with Airbnb, but he's also, you know, buying a bunch of rental units in places that make sense. And I think that in the very beginning, as I'm very much a goal-oriented person, I have my goals written down. I put my goals out there for the year. I have between 4 and 6. Those are my guiding light for the year. And then I kind of have like 10-year goals and whatnot too. So I understand goals and what, you know, stretch goals and whatnot. But I think that going back and understanding the reason why behind goals, and this is like a coaching session now, so my apologies, but you know, the reason why behind these goals, you know, it's like I've built houses. Every time I've built a house, I either like make very little money, or I lose money, and the builder makes more money. And you know, I've built 16, 20 houses. I tried it so many damn times and I just couldn't make any money. And like, it was like where I had like lots free and clear. I mean, shit, a partner of mine, I mean, we've been trying to build an apartment building in Tacoma for like 2.5, 3 years and still not coming together. Like, fortunately we have the cash to be able to hang on to this thing, this piece of dirt. It's like infill, but like now a driveway is holding us up for freaking no good reason. So I would just go back to reasons why. You know, what are the reasons of why you're doing these things? And I think that, you know, like right now you kind of have an idea. My only and single advice, given all that story, is forget what you think you're going to do in a year or two from now, and just focus on the next 9 months or a year and say, I want to have a goal of flipping 6 houses in the next year, or whatever that goal is. Because at that point, you're going to have a whole different idea of how you feel right now versus how you feel later. And hopefully you have a lot more money in the bank and a lot more experience. So I would say postpone the land development. I mean, I recently lost 400 grand on the land development and it was not fun. And it was because there was a random wetland that no one caught. And there's a culvert that ran to my property that came from a wetland, and they called it a stream, even though there's never been a fish in there ever. And they built the culvert when they built the subdivision up above. So yeah, I got experience. I've lost probably way more money than I ever should have. I'm still standing, but I'm not a real estate developer. That's for damn sure.
And a good rule of thumb on that particular lot you're looking at is that in the hottest real estate market any of us have ever seen in the history of our area, if there's a lot in a good location and it's been sitting for a year, there's something
It's not
wrong.
a deal.
There's
not a deal.
Kenny would have bought it, I would have bought it, Fred would have bought it, or everybody would have bought it if there was something there. It's not to be cynical about it, but just probably to be realistic about it. It would have been sold by now.
So Zach, here's the deal. Because you already bought a lot and this is our first time, can you help as a coach, maybe if you find a good one, and just, you know, contact me to say, hey, John, I find someone for you, has a, you know, like to help, you know. I really know that you are really good, and I want you to help in this way. Yeah, I can shoot my email address, you know, like, let's know if we can make it like a deal. I want you to help. I just want to buy the one, and I say like, this is Zach helping me.
I work down in Tacoma, so if you want to do something down there, I'd be happy to help you. But I'm not going to do you much good up in the area you're looking, man.
Yeah, but you said like if something like that show up, you or Kenny can just grab it. But I want to get one and to start. So maybe you and Kenny try to help in this case. You know, what do you think, guys? Yeah, I
Dream
throw it
team.
on you, Kenny.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm
Well,
in.
we're definitely over on time. Thanks for coming up and asking your questions. I appreciate it. We'll with these guys' permission, we'll end up giving all of you guys who attended the link to the replay, but also their contact info if you want to ask some more questions or if we didn't get to it. Anyway, thanks y'all for coming. That was Real Talk with Zach Flowers and Kenny Patton, two real estate rock stars in their own right. So thank you guys so much for coming on. I know it was a stretch. I appreciate you guys. Go have a beer. I'll pay for it sometime. You can just ask me for Venmo. And you guys go enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Thank y'all.
Take it
Take
easy,
care.
guys. Later.